Okay. And I guess, for those students who do not have a decent internet connection at home, or you drop out suddenly, I'm just afraid that I might get cut off, right? When another lecturer log into the same account, and I'll be kicked out of the session. So just beware of that. This will happen on Zoom. But anyway, during the first week, we mentioned about the idea, right? I think apart from just getting an idea, it is very, very important for you to really look at the team, right? So the team is actually one of the critical success factor for a venture to be successful, right? So it is very important to have the right team members participating fully in your team, in all the teamworks that I've assigned to you in the next couple of weeks. And this is very, very important, right? If the team fell apart, basically, if you're the best products in the world, you still would not be able to sell, right? So be very, very careful about your team members, not just getting somebody to be in your team, but make sure that, especially those who've been appointed as a CEO or as a leader of the team itself, you got to make sure that all your team members participate, right? So we call this a team process. All right, so I guess for this week, we'll be looking at only step one, which is market segmentation. This is one of the most important steps, because if you do this step wrong, potentially all the other 23 steps towards the end in this chart is going to be steer off few costs, right? So you got to make sure that your step one in doing market segmentation, which is part of knowing your customer, who your customer is. And this is kind of like important for you to really spend a bit more effort and time by looking into the step one, right? So we're going to do this together, right? Now let's move into the slide. I hope you can see my slides. If not, just text me on the group chat. I'm actually opening up a few windows, and hopefully my computer can sustain. I'll be recording as well. Now, before we begin, let me ask you, right? Let me ask all of you. You can use the group chat to reply. Who do you think is the customer for COVID-19 vaccine? Just a simple question, right? So we know that we are all rushing to get vaccinated. Of course, our parents, the elderly people have already got their vaccines. But who do you know that? Who are the real customer of COVID-19 vaccines? From seniors to young adults, I see some. The government, right? Community, right? The community, government, okay? Governments, people who are dying, scared of dying. All right, so we get different answers, right? So this is very good. This is why teamwork matters. You see, when I just asked the very simple questions like this, right? So the team members actually responded, and I would say that at this current stage of development, the government are the ultimate buyers of COVID-19 vaccines, right? Like the Malaysian government, the US governments typically buy vaccines from the pharmaceutical companies, right? Like Pfizer, BNP, Moderna, Sinovac, and so on. So these are actually pharmaceutical companies that actually take orders from various governments in the world. So I think at the current stage, yes, most of the vaccines, I would say that 90% of vaccines are actually sold to the governments in the world. And the government actually distribute the vaccines within the country itself, right? So I think these pharmaceutical companies do not sell direct to the community. Okay, if you're running a pharmaceutical company like Pfizer, you do not actually sell, each and every vaccine to the community yet, right? So I wouldn't say that community is wrong, but just not at this right moment, right? So you know that if I were to sell vaccines, if I'm a CEO of the pharmaceutical company, I'll probably look at who are my customers, okay? And ultimately, it's very clear that my biggest customer right now is the governments, right? So any governments in the world who wants to actually buy vaccines, so they have to come to this pharmaceutical company to sign a contract, and then we're going to deliver all these vaccines to the government, right? And all these, for them to distribute to their citizens in their own country. So this is what we call understanding the customer is one of the very important factor for you to dominate a particular market, right? No point talking about now we are selling to community, okay? We are in the lockdown stage, right? So who in the community will buy these vaccines from you? And most of these community people do not have the network and the contact and the funds, right, to buy all these vaccines, right, for people, unless you are big companies. Like in Taiwan, it's kind of like very different because they don't sell to governments. Taiwan is a bit, different because of the political interference. And I guess the private entities are actually buying vaccines on behalf of the government, right? So there are basically three private corporations, big corporations, like the TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor, Corporation, and I think there are also some semiconductor companies that help government to procure the vaccines for the Taiwanese people. So those are pretty different nature, but again, the big enterprises can be a customer to purchase COVID-19 vaccines. Although it's not a big segment, but still, I think there are a very small portion of the COVID-19 vaccines actually go to the private enterprises. Okay, so now what we'll cover today is just market segmentation. We'll leave step 2, 3, and 4 to the next week. So do not worry about the second, third, and fourth step, but just focus on the first step. And we have quite a bit of things to do, but I hope to cover all these things within the first hour. Then we can do some work towards the second, half an hour. So again, I don't think that we need 2 hours in full, and I don't believe that you can concentrate for 2 hours nonstop, right? So yeah, let me just jump into a bit more storytelling. And I guess the reasons why we want to do market segmentation is really to avoid selling to everyone, right? Back last year, or even when I was teaching design thinking, right? So it's kind of like very common to see, oh, my product can be used by everyone. Okay, so even the vaccines is not, it can be used by. Even the vaccine is not. Sorry, there's some noise. I will have to mute too. All right. So if you look at hello. So if you look at the vaccine itself, in fact, you can't sell to kids, right? So you have to be at least 18 years and above just to take, any ordinary vaccines. But of course, with Pfizer, I think if you are, 12 years old and above, then you can actually start taking vaccines. I think it's still under test. And I guess if you're even selling vaccines, it's actually not selling to everyone. Even if you are, creating something like GrabFood, a GrabFood service or Foodpanda service, I don't think you are selling to everyone because there is vastly a market segment that you are trying to sell your service or to try to sell your products. And the notion of selling to everyone, everyone must, use your products. I think that notion has to be cleared out, right, from this course, right? At least in the first step, you just cannot create a products or services that caters for everyone. It's just not possible, right? I think if you look at this diagram, if we are chasing, just 2 rabbits, you can catch neither, right? So you are chasing multiple rabbits. I don't think you end up, to be a dominant player in that particular market segment itself, right? So you get to be very, very clear that who is your ultimate customer, and you just want to go after that rabbit, right? So the second pitfall for a lot of companies to make mistake, when they first created their product is the China syndrome, right? Not particularly about China, but they look at the market size, right? Oh, if I were to sell a product, I always want to look at the largest pie, correct? So if I were to sell, let's say, pizzas, I would love to probably open my stores throughout China. But, Chinese people don't really eat pizza a lot. So that comes to, well, it has a big market size in China, but you also have to look at your products, whether your products is suitable in that market, or are you a new incumbent? Are you a new entrant into the market versus the incumbents? And these are some other considerations that you should make, right, before are even entering the market. Like, wow, in Malaysian market, we have 30 million people compared to Indonesia, right? Indonesia have about 100 million people. Of course, by business sense, if any business would like to launch, they'll actually choose Indonesian market. But is the market ready? So those are the questions that it's not just about the market size, it's about whether you can address the market or not, right? How do you tackle the market? Even the market is like 1.4 billion people in China, but are you able to cater for each and every citizen in China, right? Or be in India and Indonesia, right? So I think the China syndrome is something that you should really avoid. Not just looking at the size of the market, right? You always go for the biggest size of the market, but you know that in China, not many people actually buys pizza, right? So it may turn out that it is a flaw, but by just looking at this, market size alone, right? So this is the second pitfall why market segmentation is important, right? So there are only two things, and these are all in your book. You can actually take a read of your book, and I'm just summarizing the points from the textbook. Yeah. Okay. Now, the second exercise that we are going to do together today is about three companies that we are very familiar with. So first thing, AirAsia, which is the budget airline. Okay. Now, tell me, who are the customers for AirAsia? Who are the customers for AirAsia? I don't think it's government anymore. Anyone?
Community.
You see, you can see that you have one classmate say everybody, all the citizens. Oh, that's dangerous. Passengers, right? Passengers, okay. People who want to travel on a budget. Exactly. I think this is the more precise definition about AirAsia customer. It's not just anybody. It's not just all the citizens. I'm a citizen who live in Kedah, right? Or I'm living in Greek, and there is no airport at Greek. So how can I be a customer for AirAsia, right? So it doesn't make sense. So I think this is something that we need to really think about. And I'm just drawing all these examples for you, right? So I think for AirAsia passengers, or you may say budget passengers, right? Because passengers who are actually looking for budget travel, they want to save costs, they don't mind sitting in economy class. So I think that's fine. No frills. Their baggage is probably within 20 kg. So I think those are the right market segment for AirAsia, right? And AirAsia is never contending with any conventional airlines, like you are actually Japan Airlines, right? Or your Singapore Airlines, right? So those airlines are competing in a very different market, right? Singapore Airlines is somewhere up here, and AirAsia is somewhere down here, right? So we're not just discrediting AirAsia, we're not doing that, but each of these airlines have their own customer segment, right? And this is why I think it's important to draw this example, right? Okay, now apart from passengers, who do you think AirAsia sells to? Apart from getting these budget travelers who fly with AirAsia, can you name another segment that potentially could be a customer for AirAsia? Okay, question to all of you, yeah. So during this pandemic, have you purchased things from Shopee? Yes, right? Exactly, right? So this is like DHL, right? So the customers for AirAsia are actually courier services, right? Courier services. DHL, probably DHL not quite, to be honest, because the DHL would have their own aircraft, right, to send parcels all around the world. But you may think about like J&T, right? Post Laju. You may also think about those smaller cargo services, like airmail, right? So these are some of the courier or postal services who are clients for AirAsia, right? So not just passengers, because passengers sit at the upper deck. The cargo deck actually you put in, other than your own luggages and baggages, but you also put in all this cargo, right? The cargo includes all these parcels that you send with your courier services, right? So this is something that AirAsia are making money from. All right, now let's move to another example, right? Grab, right? So who do you think are the Grab customer? I'm not talking about Grab food here, just Grab car, right? So who do you think are the Grab customers? Obviously, very easy, right? Again, passengers, right? Frontliners, passengers, right? These are car passengers instead of aircraft passengers. Right? These are passengers who probably want to commute on the last mile basis, like from the LRT station to their workplace, and maybe from a point to point, right? So from your house to another person's to their destinations. So these are passengers, and I don't particularly agree that these passengers are actually looking for budget journey, right? I don't think Grab is really providing a very affordable ride. It used to be affordable, but now I don't think it's affordable, right? It's pretty expensive, I would say. Taking a ride from Jalan Kampar, at Quest International University to Aman Jaya typically costs you about 17 to 20 ringgit, right, during this daytime. So it's no longer an affordable option, right? So imagine that you pump 17 ringgit of petrol. I think you can go from Ipoh to Taiping, right, and then come back and forth. Okay. So that's what 17 ringgit worth for. And obviously, why Grab exists is because the public buses doesn't function very well. Right? You got to wait for 1 hour for the bus and it doesn't come. I've very experienced taking buses in Ipoh before. And I was taking a ride from Aman Jaya back to Ipoh downtown. It took me 2 hours. Okay, waiting for the bus is like 1 hour, and it sent me to Medan Kid, and I got to wait for another bus just to commute from Medan Kid to my house, right? Just right in front of my house. So that was my own experience taking buses. All right, now Grab also appeals to drivers. You know that Grab is actually operating a multi-sided platform, not just passengers, but the drivers are actually the customer for Grab. Okay, let's go on to the next example, Airbnb. How many of you stayed in Airbnb before? I just stayed in one Airbnb last week. Okay, so their customer, very simple, right? Homestay host. These are their customer. Why? Because Airbnb actually get the homestay host to list their accommodation on their platform, right? And then now their customer also include the guests, right? Guests actually go to Airbnb website to look for the suitable accommodations, and then they are making reservations or bookings on the website. And then when the guests make payment, and part of the payment will be channeled to all these homestay hosts, right? So it's kind of like, well, they are operating a two-sided market. This is the homestay host and also the guests, right? Of course, you can have a lot other examples like LinkedIn. Who are the customers for LinkedIn, right? Not just about professionals who are on LinkedIn itself, because we don't pay a fee, but those LinkedIn are also exclusively available for corporate members, right? Corporate partners, who are looking to advertise with LinkedIn, to create job posting on LinkedIn. That's where these paid customers are paying LinkedIn, right, to get these kind of services, right? So LinkedIn, to a certain extent, also have this providing training services, and this is something which is like, LinkedIn is slowly taking over the website like Job Street, right? So we no longer have to look for jobs at Job Street or jobdb.com. I think it used to be very popular, but now we are looking for jobs on LinkedIn or even Facebook, right? Facebook allows you to actually look for jobs online. And I think the way that we are looking for jobs is transforming, right? Even without us, realizing it at the forefront. So people like JobStreet, JobDB.com, they are fading out, right? So you don't see a lot of advertisements right now, and it's been replaced with LinkedIn and also Facebook, right? Those social media is more powerful in reaching out to your right customers. Okay, let's move on. Market segmentation is really to focus on a target customer, just wear the lens of the customer, put the right frame of your mind to look at how you can sell your products, right, to the right customer. That's basically all about market segmentation. The right customer is the most important topic in this first step, right? As I said. Now, the first sentence is very important. All these points are very important, right? Because we're going to have like a quiz towards week 4 or week 5. These are individual assessment. So everything in this slide is important. Yeah. So I just set the questions and remember that to revise all your textbook and also the slides that I gave you. And also, of course, when I talk through some examples in the class, these are some clues, right, for you to actually revise your individual assessment later on. Okay, now the single necessary and sufficient condition for a business to exist is to have a paying customer. All right. So why business exists? Because they want to sell their products, and when they want to sell their products, they need a paying customer, right? Imagine that even you are operating a char kway teow store, right? So don't look down on char kway teow store because they have a paying customer, right? So if you created a prototype or a product, and if you do not have somebody paying for that, that is not a business, right? So you haven't reached a business stage. You just come out with the product and that's all. But for you to create a business, you must have at least one sale, right? You make at least one sale, which is one paying customer, right? And if you look at charities, right? So charities are really not business because charities are charities. Their customers are not paying, right? So I don't think they have paying customer. But they do have sponsors, but sponsors are not very paying customer. Sponsors are doing this charity or sponsorship voluntarily, right? So, and they get tax rebate. So we don't classify those money as revenue to the charities, right? So these are not revenue. These are actually sponsorship. So it's been recorded in the very different accounting terms, right? So if you record as a revenue, as a sales revenue, is taxable. But if you record these as donations, then it's not taxable, right? It's not taxable. So I think it's very different definition about donations, sponsorship versus the sales revenue. So if you say that charities also got customer, and I don't think so because it's been recorded very differently, right? So this is what I want to address some of the most common questions asked by the students. Now you have your own startup now, and you just have to look for your end user or target customer. And a target customer is a group of people that share similar buying behavior, or they have similar characteristics. Like vaccines is only suitable for people aged 18 years old and above, right? So especially elderly people, they are more suitable in taking a more specific type of vaccine, right? Not all are suitable for elderly people, I would say, but maybe a more specific type of vaccine, which is more suitable for elderly people or people with chronic diseases, right? So not all the vaccines are meant for all people, and you can see we have different side effects, right, after taking the vaccine at different age group. So this is something that we'll cover next. Is about the 3 stages of market segmentation, and ultimately after this week, after this class, I think you're going to do the market segmentation exercises with your team, right? There are only 3 things that you need to do, which is the brainstorming, narrowing down all the list of market, and conducting the primary market research. Okay, so I think what I'll do next is I'm just going to show a video from Bill. I've posted this on Google Classroom, but I bet there are still students who haven't really opened up Google Classroom, and I decided maybe it's good just to share the video, right? Okay, so I'm just going to go to the Google Classroom. For those who have not logged in to your Google Classroom, I think it's important for you to take a look, what's happening in Google Classroom, because I've posted I would say most of the information on Google Classroom. You see a lot of posts, but those posts are pretty useful to you, right? So at your free time, just go back to check out the Google Classroom and watch some very bite-sized video. It wouldn't take you half an hour just to finish all the videos. Okay, let me just play this.
So now that we understand at a high level what market segmentation is, the question now is how do you do market segmentation? And this is actually quite a fun process if you do it correctly. If you already have a technology and people are buying it and experiencing it, you can actually just go to them and say, what are you using it for? And that will start to give you input. If you have an idea, it's not as easy to do that. But really what we're going to do here is we're not going to be limited just by what's already being done. We're going to get the team together and we're going to think out of the box, what are all the different potential things? And no idea is too crazy. Brainstorming is a very good thing. The crazier idea, the better, because it opens the aperture. And so then you're going to systematically make a list or lay out all the different opportunities that you can think of. And it's interesting because in my company, some of the first ones that we thought were so obvious we're going to do this ends up being ones that we didn't do. It was some other idea that came up in brainstorming. But once we lay out what the different opportunities are, now that was just brainstorming in a room. They might not be good ideas. We have to go out, and the answer lies in doing primary customer research. So we're going to go out and talk to real customers to find out what their problems are, what they think of this idea. We have to understand their needs as well, because they're not going to be able to design the product for us. So doing primary observational market research is fundamental. My thesis at MIT was on this. And what I saw was that, you have to have a good process, but it's not just the process that matters. It's actually walking in the customer's shoes and using good inquiry techniques, not advocating for your product, but understanding what they're about. You need to walk in the customer's shoes. You need to understand them rationally, of course, emotionally, and also socially. What drives them? What do they kind of fear most in the world? But now we're going to understand their job as well by watching them. And this is what we call primary customer research. Then we're going to narrow down these markets. So we might have 20, and we're going to do a first pass of market research. And then we're going to say, all right, we can't do 20. We can only do 6 to 8 of them. And then once we do that, we've narrowed the field, and then we do another push of market research, primary market research to do this. Do not trust, what you just see on the internet. Do not trust, a report from a group as reputable as Gartner might be. Go out and see for yourself, because the answer lies with the customer. You have to do this yourself. Don't download your eyes and ears. This primary market research is one of the most fundamental, important things that you're going to do.
Exactly, I do agree with you. I think 10 years back, when I was working for Nokia, I used to be working as a staff at Nokia, right? At that time, I would say that 6 out of 10 people would have a Nokia phones, right, on their hands. That was even before Android, comes to the market. There wasn't a Samsung Galaxy phone. I think Samsung just yet to launch a new Galaxy phone in the year of 2010. And I was downloading a report from Gartner, right? So, it's pretty interesting. It says that in the next 5 years, from 2011 to 2015, Nokia is going to continue to be dominant player in smartphones market. This is a report from Gartner, okay? The forecast is in the next 5 years, Nokia will continue to dominate the smartphones market for the next 5 years. And if I were to believe the report, I'll be doomed, right? I'll be creating all the apps just for Nokia platforms and forgetting about iOS and also Android. And I think what is being stated in the report is not true. And trust me, this is from Gartner. Yeah, this is not from any reports that you download from internet, but you pay $5,000 just to get this report from Gartner. And guess what? If a lot of people trust what Gartner says, they will be doomed, right? They'll be doomed. Seriously, I think obviously it really gone off the course. Their prediction actually so far, right? So far from reality. So do not trust something you download from the internet. And this is why we need to do primary market research, right? So we're going to do that in a little while. So the 3 stages of market segmentation is first to brainstorm with team, then you narrow down the list. We'll show you how to do that in the next half an hour, and you conduct primary market research, right? We'll give you all the tools that you need and the worksheet that you need to fill out in the next 1 hour, okay? So now, brainstorming is kind of very easy, right? So you gather a team of people. I think for those of you who have done design thinking, I don't have to, talk about brainstorming process because you have done that in design thinking. And basically, you get everybody in your team to think about what products you should sell, right? Because you're running a startup now, you probably have an idea, but you might want to think about the product or services that you want to sell, right? Just purely doing some high-level brainstorming, right? There is no some hard rules. You can see that point number 4 is something which is the same as design thinking, right? So defer judgment, one conversation at a time, stay focused on the topic, encourage crazy ideas, wild ideas, build on the ideas of the others. These are pretty common brainstorming rules, that you learn from design thinking, right? You use sticky notes to do brainstorming, and the only thing that you need to come out of the brainstorming session is the idea, what products that you want to sell, or what services that you want to actually let people use, right? As simple as that, right? So that's the outcome from your brainstorming, okay? And now you have to go into to narrow the idea or the products or services that you want to sell. You look at probably 8 different group of customers, potential customers, right? So after you have done with your brainstorming, you have the idea, you already have the products. You think that, well, I'm going to create a food panda service for B40 segment, right? You know that there are a lot of poor people out there who are without food, and they have raised a flag and to get help, right? So how can we create a platform to connect all these needy people with charities who want to sponsor maybe a meal or 2 on the daily basis? So this could be, I would say, the food panda for B40 group. Obviously, the B40 group unlikely they are going to order food from Food Panda, right? It's kind of pricey because it easily costs you more than 10 ringgit just to order a meal on Food Panda. So it's not affordable at all. But the people are looking at a more affordable meals. So I guess this could be one idea that you can come up with, right? But don't take it for granted. Think about it. List down the top 8 end users, right? Maybe I would say from top 3 to 8 segments of the potential customer. That's good enough, right? So list down at least 3, but maximum don't go beyond 8, right? Yeah, let me just show the screen now. Sorry. Okay, so this is after the brainstorming, you narrow down the field, right, towards your top 3 to top 8 customers. Because I'm just going to run through with you the exercise later, right? So this just at a very high level. So do brainstorming. Second, narrow down the end users, right? So narrow down the field, narrow down the end users. Now next, you fill up all these worksheets, right? You fill out all these worksheets and it's given to you in tutorial 2. You can check Google Classroom later on. But I've given you the worksheet to help you narrow down your customer segment, right? So who are the end users? It's just like the questions that we asked, right? So who are the customer for AirAsia? It could be courier services. It could be, governments who charter the flight. It could be, budget travelers. It could be, a lot of, other potential customer, right, who fly with AirAsia. Who are the customer for your vaccines? So it could be community, it could be clinics, it could be hospital, it could be corporate buyers, it could be governments, right? So these are some of the lists that you can fill out. And from this list, you just have the checklist, right? So the target customer, are they well funded? You don't want to be, selling to customer who couldn't pay, right? So if you're selling LV bags, for example, right? So you're selling, a high-end apparel, and you just have to make sure that your target customer group are able to pay at that price, right? So you have to ask yourself that the target customer, are they well funded, right? Do they have money to pay, right? So this is something that you need to do some, I wouldn't say even research, but you have to really be very logical in what you want to sell, right? So you are selling expensive stuffs on Lazada and Shopee, you don't want to target the wrong customer, right? Who has no, let's say, credit cards. Obviously you can't sell on Lazada to customers who are without credit cards, and you need to have cards or at least an e-wallet or even the online banking account for you to make transactions online. Otherwise, they won't be your customer. So all these are questions that you should ask yourself. And what would be the comparing reason to buy, right? So that's very important that, why do they buy your products? Why do they actually consume your services? And why do I choose to stay with Airbnb instead of booking a hotel rooms with Agoda? So these are some of the things that you just fill the checklist here. I would say minimally 3, maximum you can go to, about 8. Don't go too far because it's going to be very messy, right? And you need to stay very focused on the list of customers that you have, right? I will show you examples later, don't worry. The last thing is to conduct primary research. So once you have identified the list of the customer segment that you want to tackle, now it is important to validate, whether your assumptions are true. You probably think that, if I'm selling expensive apparels on the internet and only certain customer group would buy, right? I think, it's kind of like you got to really test out your hypothesis, whether, only specific customer segment would buy from you or not. And I can give you one example, right? Have you seen Alibaba founders Jack Ma selling lipstick or cosmetic online? I think he was competing with another so-called these online sellers, right? So I couldn't remember the person's name, but I was watching the video, and he was like competing head on the studio selling lipstick online, right? I think Jack Ma was selling this lipstick online, and the gentleman on the other side was like selling very well. And if the gentleman can sell lipstick so well, and obviously I think the segment is just not about selling lipstick to ladies, right? So this kind of like very interesting hypothesis that you want to test out, because sometimes we take things for granted. We assume too many things without going into looking at the real market itself, right? That's why the primary market research is very important. It's the direct interaction with your customer to validate whether your assumptions is true or not, right? And even by talking to them or observing what customers do will actually help you to come up with new ideas, right? To identify new opportunities, new ideas, new ways of selling things. Now, your ultimate intention is to find out who buys from you, what do they purchase, and how do they make purchase, right? So who is your customer, right? So you need to identify in terms of the end user segment or the customer segment. And the next thing is, does my product work? How can I sell my products to this customer? Do they actually need my product? That's the ultimate question, right? So like how or what are you selling, right? And last thing is, will people buy it, right? So how do they buy it? And what are the methods they actually use to buy your products, right? It could be online, it could be on Facebook, it could be on direct selling, cash on delivery, and so on and so forth. So will people pay for it, right? So at $20 or at $60, Will people pay for this? Is it worth the money that they paid? Okay. And we go into a little bit of research here. I will go through each and every one, but do not worry too much about this. I will just skip this slide. And we will actually go into all these techniques. Yeah. So the tools for primary market research are divided into, I think, 5. Right? I just want to introduce you 5 tools that you can use for your primary market research. First thing is to do customer interviews. Right? You go and interview customer. I think this is the cheapest way for you to conduct primary market research is by asking people, right? So how do they feel? I think we have done this in design thinking also. You are creating an empathy map, right? So people feeling frustrated because they are not happy with certain services, and that's why they choose to stay with Airbnb, right? Which is more guest friendly than checking into the hotel rooms, right? So you can find out all this insight from customer interviews. Observational research. In design thinking, we love to observe what customer do, right? Watch customer do their daily work, and then I give a lot of use cases, right? So, for example, the Electrolux washer and dryer use case. Electrolux actually send their engineers to watch how the housewife does the laundry. So remember that use case. So from that research itself, by observing how people use your product, you are able to draw some insights, right? You're able to draw some insight. Okay, now, instead of observing, the third point is you yourself wear the customer shoes to go and do the customer work. You fully experience the struggle that your customer went through, right? So we call it immersion. So you can be, working as a part-time, just try to be a customer, right? Walking into the Maxis or Digi store and try to buy a SIM card and write down all the experiences that you went through as a customer, right? As though you are the real subscriber who want to subscribe to internet services with, let's say, Digi and Maxis, right? So just take it for example. So you are really like pretending as a customer, wearing the customer shoes, do some simulations, and then you are recording down all your findings, right, in your statements. Okay, now moving to the next one is user test. This is my favorite. I always love to do user tests, right? So I can give you one story about how I did user tests to sell my internet plans. I'm actually running a company called Simplify. Now during the pandemic, we have been selling hundreds and hundreds of routers, the Wi-Fi routers that we have at home, to people in need, right, at a very affordable price. So the target segment that we tackle is non-unified areas, right? So in that area that doesn't have Unify, then you go with Simplify, because all you need is slot in a 4G SIM card into the router, and then we'll just ship the router to the people. We don't even have to go into your house to install the router. So it's plug and play. You take the router, plug into a PowerPoint, and there you go. You have internet service in your house. And it can go as fast as about 30 to 50 meg per second if you get decent signal coverage in your home area, right? So the user test that we usually do is, how much would people pay for this service? We started off with 59 ringgit, for 1 month. And then we raised the price to 80 ringgit per month on unlimited plan. For 59 ringgit is actually 30 gig per month only. There's basic quota. And we also realized that people do not like, having internet quota. You got to reload, you got to, top out and so on. This creates hassles to a lot of our customers. So we learn from that. We do a user test. Now, one group is actually subscribing to 59 ringgit with quota. The other group is subscribing to, 80 ringgit per month with unlimited data, right? And actually, a lot of the first group customer, they migrated, they actually upgraded to the 80 ringgit plan. They don't mind paying extra 21 ringgit. I just don't like to top up, because every month I top up, I will also top up 20 to 30 ringgit. Might as well I pay you additional 21 ringgit so that I can be on the unlimited data plan. And this, the A/B test, and the conclusion is that part A, the group A customer, most of them, I would say 80% of them migrated to the group B, because group B seems to be a more workable plan, right? And this is what we call A/B test. You can always do this test online. The other sample A/B test that we did recently was doing a Facebook campaign, right? You know that we post our promotions on Facebook, especially for these double eight, promotions, the end of August promotions. So we do A/B test again. The first group of customer we're targeting, the same post, targeting Ipoh customer. The second, we have another similar post, same post with the same caption and wording. We post it to people in Selangor, and we see how people respond. Okay, this could be another A/B test. And apparently, in small area, the suburban areas in Ipoh, actually, the first post is pretty responsive, right? A lot of messages coming in, but not the second post, because we're targeting the wrong area. We're targeting selling simplify for Selangor. Selangor area is all well covered with the best internet connectivity in the nation. It's all focusing in Klang Valley, but not in Ipoh. So people in Ipoh would need more or better internet service compared to people in Selangor. So no point selling your products in Selangor, because you know that people in Selangor will unlikely to sign up with Simplify, right? So that's what another conclusion that we got from the A/B test. It will be stupid for us as a company or as an entrepreneur to go and address everybody in Malaysia. You just post it on Facebook and you target the whole nation. It's a waste of money. You want to really target on a very specific location. As I said, we want to only target non-unified area, and apparently many places in Ipoh are not unified area, right? So, and this is what we learned from our A/B test. Focus group, the fifth one. This is a very traditional method. You form, a user group, people who are using the same products, or people who love to do some hobby together. You group them together, and then you actually ask them, right? So you ask them, you interview them, you observe them, and those kind of like a focus group, tool that you can use to assess your product and services viability. Immersion, do the customer job. You can really perform the customer job. And one of the example that I want to tell you in the next 10 minutes is about the story of dirty kitchen floor, right? So you know that after dinner, usually, or after cooking, or after preparing a meal, usually the kitchen floor is kind of like oily, isn't it? There are a lot of dirts. There are actually a lot of maybe oil or oily. And as a housewife, your moms or your auntie or your nanny is going to look for all these floor cleaner, right? So you typically buy all these floor cleaner from Giants or from Tesco and so on. So you use that a lot, right, to mop the floor. So if you observe how a housewife does the job at home, you realize that it's kind of tedious, right? Just to mop the floor or just to clean the floor, it involves a few steps, right? First thing, who are the target customer for buying all these floor detergents, right? So I don't think youngster like you will actually buy a detergent. Businesswomen typically don't buy detergents, and I think I remember my grandma, right? So I don't think she also uses a detergent, because detergent was created after her era, right? So it's like, oh, this one full of chemical, don't use. She will use something like a lime water, squeeze some lime, and then just use some clean water to clean the floor, and it's also very effective. Yeah. So these are probably not the right group of customer. You don't see housewife in this group, right? Or people living in the hostel. Okay, so the right customer to buy floor detergent are actually housewives, right? So these are the right target group. Okay, now observe what they do. So first thing, to clean the floor, they have to sweep the floor, right? Without, even before you start mopping the floor, you got to sweep the floor first, right? You got to sweep the floor first. So this is more like a customer journey process. So before they even pour and prepare the water for mopping the floor, they have to sweep the floor. Second thing, you need other apparatus, right? You need a pail of water. You need a very special bucket. You know, those are mop bucket, right? That comes in this manner. You know, the red so-called pail, right? And then you need a mop, right? You need a mop, right? So this is something that you have to pour the detergent into the pail of water that you have prepared, and then you have to mix that, you know, stir it, and then you have to really prepare it to mop the floor. Right? So it's kind of like quite a number of steps involved here. Okay, so look at what she does. Now you have to squeeze it, right? So after you mop it, you have to squeeze it. You have to, you know, do some, you know, actions, and then you have to probably change the water. These are some of the tedious thing that a housewife will have to do after, you know, you have done cooking, then you decided to clean your kitchen floor. Now, as an entrepreneur, right, this is not a slide by mistake. Yeah, so we all know that these are baby diapers, right? Baby diapers. How can we create, or how can we simplify the the floor mopping process by automating or by facilitating or creating a new type of products that can do all three, right? Sweeping the floor, first thing. You can mop the floor, maybe without detergent. And you can also throw away, you know, the floor mop, just like changing the diapers. I don't think you recycle the diapers, right? So you can just take this as a concept to build your products by just observing the housewife, right? So this is like, wow, new ideas. Can we combine all three processes with one product? So I don't have to buy a broom, right, just to sweep the floor. I don't have to buy the bucket, you know, just to pour in the detergent, and then to buy a special mop. And what I need here is just to combine all three into one single product, right? Would it be possible, right? Just ask yourself as part of your brainstorming process, right? So yeah, you have the robot cleaner that goes around, but that doesn't mop the floor, right? So you look at this, right? And this is like very creative. So they came up with this product, and that is called Swiper, right? So this is a new product which is called a Swiper. You can actually take this swiper as a sweeper. You sweep the floor with swiper, right? You probably install maybe a different, you know, a changeable, I don't know what they call it, but it's kind of like you can slot in a mop, a special type of materials, just like the diapers, on the swiper. Then you start, you know, swiping. We call it swiping, right? These are all interchangeable materials. Yeah. So if you decided to mop the floor, maybe you can see that there's a spray, right? So you can spray on the mop itself, and then now you can start mopping without having to use a bucket, right? So you don't even need a pail of water. Why do we need a pail of water? It's kind of like time consuming, isn't it? So you just need to spray on the swiper, you know, and this is basically the surface material that you can start mopping, right? You can start mopping. Then after that, you let it dry, and that's it, right? A microfiber, right? Thank you for that. Thank God, right? Thanks, Wyman, for pointing this out. Microfiber, exactly. So this is the material that you use. And if the microfiber materials probably, you know, is no longer usable, you can just throw it out, just like a diapers, right? It's interchangeable. You don't have to recycle it. You can just buy a new pack of this so-called microfiber inserts, and then be able to continue use it as and when you need it, right? So this kind of like brilliant product, isn't it? So I would say that with Swiver, and you go back to revisit your customer segment, right? So now we go back to revisit the customer segment. Now, apart from just housewife, can you sell Swiper to all these people? can I sell Swiver to my grandma, or ask my grandma to be the end user for Swiver? Possible, right? Because my grandma is old, and you know, she's not able to carry a pail of water, you know, from the bathroom, and then to go into kitchen. I think she might not have the strength to do that, right? And now with Swiver, it's so easy, right? You can really spray. I think she's able to spray, and then we just maybe demonstrate to her how to use this thing, and then she can start mopping the floor, right? And for young adults, right, who are living alone, and these are lightweight. I would love to buy this, you know, in my house if I were to live alone, and I can actually do my house cleaning at ease with Swiver. Even for businesswomen who are like kind of busy on their daily routine work, they can even do this house cleaning instead of like hiring people from the outside. And we'll talk about the price later. Yeah. So instead of hiring people from the outside, you know, to come into your house to do this house cleaning for you for 1 hour or 2 hours per day, and you can really do it yourself, right? So it's kind of like you are creating a brand new products for a brand new market, not just selling to housewife, but you're also selling to an enlarged market segment. So your market segment is growing from just housewife to a lot of other people, right? And this is why it is important to think about, or to even rethink about your market segment, who you can sell your products to. You know, you have this brilliant idea, but now revisit all these end customers who potentially be your customers in the future. Okay, so this lastly the Swiver story, and we got this slide from MIT. These are not the slides that I made up myself, because I have another set of slides from MIT, and we actually use this example in the class, right? So my lecturer actually, you know, dress up like the housewife doing the cleaning in the classroom, and this is live demonstration in the class. So of course I won't be able to do that now, but I can just talk through the story that I've learned in the past. Okay, now we move on to another tool, right? So this is kind of like the immersion tool. So the Swiver story tells us that the primary market research is important, right? Observing or even interviewing at what housewife does, come up with new ideas, revisiting the market segment, right? Using all these methodologies. So they actually did interviews, they do immersion, right? You dress up like a housewife who does the work, try to do the job of the housewife, and then you observe. You write down your insight statements, right? And then you come to a conclusion that you can come up with better ideas. And this is something that you can really do as part of your PMR. My PMR stands for primary market research. Okay, now observation, you can do observation. So I don't have to talk about this. We talk about A/B testing. This is a user test where I talk to you about the Facebook campaigns that I've run. We do A/B tests. You can use all these two, right? So either one. You can do focus group. You get a few people and then you start brainstorming and talk to these people about their findings. Contextual interviews. This is very common. You send some questions there. You also do qualitative interviews with your friends or families or relatives or target users that you want to sell products to. And finally, right, so this is something that I would like to spend maybe another 15 minutes just to talk about how I do interviews for my own products. Yeah. So even before coming out with Simplify, knowing what to sell, knowing what product set I want to create, I actually went on to ask my friends or even my classmates at MIT, what do you really hate about connecting to Wi-Fi? You know, every time you connect to the internet, right? So what do you really hate about connecting to Wi-Fi? And these are a very simple open-ended questions, right? So interview questions, right? So when you bump into people, it's just like, hey, you know, can you tell me why do you hate about connecting to Wi-Fi? Even at MIT, right? So we don't have, you know, very good Wi-Fi speed. And of course, there's some free Wi-Fi on the campus, but it doesn't always work, right? So we asked them, you know, what do you hate about connecting to Wi-Fi? And after talking to about 80 people, right? So you really write down, you know, what people hate about. It's just one word to describe what they hate about Wi-Fi. We summarize that People hate manually turning on and off Wi-Fi radio on their smartphones. You have all these buttons. Of course, I know some of you actually turn it on all the time, but it's eating out your battery, right? So it's eating out juice. So people really hate about manually turn on and off the Wi-Fi. It should be on all the time. And why do you have a button to turn it on and off? Because you're going to get Wi-Fi everywhere, right? So why do you need to have a button to turn it on and off? Okay, so this kind of first thing that people don't like. Second thing that we found out is people hate searching for free Wi-Fi. Okay, so especially for traveler, right? So especially for traveler, or we are coming into a new cafe. So you probably want to spend 15 minutes just checking your emails, and you keep on looking for usable free Wi-Fi. You don't have to pay for the Wi-Fi, right? And you keep on looking for Wi-Fi password. So that comes to the third point, asking for password. Okay, this is something people hate. Okay, and a lot of places, they intentionally actually create a very complex Wi-Fi password. It's long, it's creepy. Oh, it has so many alphabets. It shows that, oh, there's 10 zeros, 10 or 12 zeros. So you keep on entering all the zeros. And after that, you have to key in the long, creepy Wi-Fi password. It's not just ABC123, but it has some numeric, alphanumeric, special symbols and characters that you don't even locate that on your soft keyboard. Right? It's just not possible for you to enter the password. And this is the fourth thing that people hate. After that, well, everything you have done all these, asking for password. Your password is correct. You get connected and you feel, oh, it's a relief that I'm able to connect the Wi-Fi now. It shows me full signal strength. Very good. And you realize that when I try to open my Gmail, progress bar, and the progress button shows up. Or you're trying to log in to your Zoom, or you're trying to let's say play a video on your YouTube. Dang, full bar, but it's not loading at all. Okay, so this is what happens to all of you. Agreed? Who don't agree here? Still valid, right? This was my research conducted 5 years ago, right? With people who are in my same class, right, MIT, and we come up to these 5 conclusions, and it's still valid until today. That means nobody is actually working on improving the Wi-Fi service, and it's kind of like a dismay to many of the consumer like us. Yeah? So it's still valid. Yeah, the PMR that I've done in the past. Yeah, you can see that how powerful is the PMR. The primary market research done 5 years back, it is still valid today, right? So and in different part of the world. So the problem statement that we came up is smartphone users feel very tedious, or they feel very disappointed, and they spend an average of 1 minute to enter Wi-Fi password on the device until they found that they are not usable, right? So this is a very simple problem statement from all these observations that we have made. Now, we go into another technique. You can also do primary market research by sending online surveys. I think many teams have done that during design thinking course. They send out very simple surveys to get some customer interest, right? So would you like to pay, 5 ringgit just to subscribe to my service? Do you think that this service is good, or would you be willing to be our beta customer, right? So you can actually send out online surveys. You don't have to do face-to-face interviews. I think it's not the right time to do face-to-face interview, but sometimes online surveys actually help you a lot, right? And we're just going to do this online survey together, yeah? So I'm just going to cut and paste the link so that we can do this together, right? So I will walk through with you. Let me just, let us just participate in this online survey, okay? So I have posted the survey link, which is a Google form, on our group chat. You can just double click on that, and then you can start doing or participate in my mobile connectivity survey, right? So this is how I do PMR. I'm actually doing the primary market research here together with you, right, in the next 5 minutes. and go ahead to click this. Yeah. So I'm just going to switch my screen, and I will take you through my primary market survey, right? Or primary market research during this class. Okay. Now I'm sharing my screen. Okay, so this is the 2021 Mobile Connectivity Survey conducted by Mr. Tay, right, for a company called Simplify, right? Now, let's go through the survey together, right? So don't rush through, but go through the survey together. So what smartphone platform am I using right now? And I'm using an Android, okay? So how frequent do you use your smartphone to access the internet, right? So how frequent do you use your smartphone to access the internet in the day, right? So for me, I don't use my smartphones a lot in the day because I've been using my laptop to access the internet. Maybe I say a few times in the day, I was checking my WhatsApp because I also can check my WhatsApp on my computer, right? So typically, maybe for me, it's a few times in the day. But it could be different for you, right? So it could be all the time for you. So where do you actually access the internet? Of course, at this point of time, it's at home because I cannot go out. So it's at home. What is your most frequently used method to access the internet? Home Wi-Fi, right? So I use home Wi-Fi a lot. Do you use mobile Wi-Fi do you use mobile data to access the internet? Obviously, yes, right? I also do have my 4G data. Okay, what is your monthly mobile data charges? So I pay more than 100 just to get unlimited plan. What do you have most while using mobile data on your smartphone? Turn it on and off. Oh, not really. Slow internet, because in my house area, I'm with DG, and also in the past I was with Cellcom and Maxis. Regardless, right, whether it's Maxis, Cellcom, or DG, MACD, we call it MCD, MACD. This MACD doesn't work in my house, right? I always get only one bar in my area. Okay, so despite trying Maxis, DG, and Cellcom, I still get one bar. So no point paying more. So I always get very slow internet speed on my mobile phone, and that's why they also explain why I don't use my mobile phone a lot, because my 4G doesn't work, okay, all the time. Do you use Wi-Fi in conjunction with your mobile data? Yes, I need to have Wi-Fi, otherwise I couldn't work. Do you feel troublesome to toggle in between Wi-Fi and mobile data? Not really, because it's always on. Do you agree that Wi-Fi gives generally faster internet speed than 4G? For me, yes, right? Obviously, my 4G doesn't work, but my Wi-Fi works all the time, okay? So yeah, this is my 10 questions. What do you hate most while using Wi-Fi on your phone? Sometimes no internet. For me, it's nothing about password, but the internet quality is not decent. Excuse me. So do you feel troublesome to manually turn on and off Wi-Fi radio on your smartphone? For me, no. I leave it on all the time. Have you ever used public Wi-Fi before? Yes. What do you hate most while using public Wi-Fi? Showing me mobile advertisements. Or maybe I think a more severe case is I was experiencing very slow internet speed, right? Very bad internet speed at Starbucks or even at MACD, right? Sorry, I have to mute. Okay, next question. Would you pay for a good Wi-Fi service available throughout the country? Why not? If I can get a Wi-Fi service just like Maxis, why not? For a very small fee. Are you a frequent traveler? For me, yes. Pre-COVID-19, I travel a lot. Okay, next, probably the last section. Do you usually buy your mobile prepaid card while traveling in the foreign country? No, not quite. I only buy once when I was traveling in Taiwan. It's kind of very different in Taiwan, because in Taiwan, you get unlimited data, right? There's no quota. So when you arrive at the airport, there is a big advertisement. It says unlimited data for 3 days in Taiwan, and it's only for 300 new Taiwan dollars. 300 new Taiwan dollars is about 30 ringgit. Huh? Wow, that's cheap, right? Unlimited data, no quota, unlimited cap, no speed cap, they call it all you can eat, right? In Chinese, they call it 吃到饱, right? All you can eat. It's only for 30 ringgit for 3 days. I don't think 3 days or 5 days, can't remember, but it's just like, you don't have to really care about your data anymore. So I only buy once in Taiwan, and this is the only time that I purchase a foreign SIM card. If there are good Wi-Fi access in foreign country, do you require your mobile prepaid cards? No, because we know that roaming is very expensive. Yeah, roaming is very expensive. I remember I was roaming in Singapore. It cost me 38 ringgit for 500 meg of data per day. 500 meg of data per day. It cost me 38 ringgit daily, yeah, on a daily basis. Yeah. Would you be willing to pay a small fee to access a good Wi-Fi in foreign country? Yes. What type of application do you use? Social network, maybe messaging, right? Okay. Next, simplify. Okay, this is about your product. Yeah, the last point is about your product. So simplify can automatically connect you to nearby Wi-Fi. Do you agree that this simplify the process? You don't have to key in password. You don't have to look for Wi-Fi, and you just connect automatically. Simplify connects you only to the best Wi-Fi in your location. Good. Simplify grants you the access to major Wi-Fi hotspot in the world for a small fee. How much would you be willing to pay? Right? I would say that less than 10 ringgit per month. Right? Simplify charges you 1 ringgit per gig. Does this seem affordable to you? I would say yes and no. Maybe less than 10 ringgit would be affordable. Simplify lets you resell your unused mobile data for 1 ringgit per gig. Right? So if you have 80 ringgit, if you have 80 gig data quota per month, you couldn't use up. And this is a platform for you to resell it, right? And would you be willing to sell it? Because if you don't sell it, you get nothing, right? Now, if you sell it, you get something back because you have 80 gig per month, unless you use up all the 80 gig. But now your leftover data, you can sell it back to this platform, right? Would you want to resell it? Right? I would say yes. Some of you might say maybe. And then I submit it, right? I submit my survey. And let's look at the survey, right? Result. This is how we do PMR, right? So maybe some of you have already completed the PMR. I'll just try to refresh my screen. Right, I got 34 responses. Right? In just 10 minutes, I got 34 responses, which is not bad. And I got all the details that I want, right? In terms of the responses, right? I got all the details that I want, right? So here, if I just go to responses, okay, I can look at the summary, right? It's loading. Takes a while. Okay, so you can see that these are all my customer demographic, right? Primarily, my customer are actually on Android. My second biggest customer platforms are actually on iOS, iPhone users. Not so much on, I think if you are selling to BlackBerry user, I think don't even think about creating an app on BlackBerry because nobody actually uses BlackBerry anymore. Even for Huawei Harmony, there's only like 2 users, which is on the Huawei Harmony OS, right? So those are quite insignificant, I would say, right? So you can just go down, all these survey results that you have collected over online. And this is especially one type of primary market research, right? One type of primary market research. And these are what people use, and these are their opinions, right? So you can see that. Let me ask, right? If people are willing to pay a small fee to access the internet over Wi-Fi, like if you are trying to sell this service, right? So you have to look into this data. Wait, let me just look for the questions. I can't remember which question is that. Right? You can see that 92%, 92.2% of the people would be willing to pay for a good Wi-Fi service throughout the country. 92% is they are willing to pay for a small fee just to get good Wi-Fi service in the country. Then you know that your customer segment is validated, right? It's validated. So people would be willing to pay for a small fee just to access all the Wi-Fi services be it at Starbucks or McDonald's or Old Town or any other cafe, to get internet, right? So that's the validation. Right? In just 10 minutes, you can do this kind of validation. And I don't want to go through all these reports because I will share this report with you at the end of the day. But these are simple primary market research you can do. Right? So let's jump back to the lecture, right? Where to conclude this in the next 10 minutes, because people are getting hungry and later he'll be shouting right at me. So let's get down to the details here. Okay, just finish off the lecture on doing a primary market survey, doing the primary market research PMR. So all you need to do by end of the day is to really fill out your brainstorming sheet, narrow down your customer segment, right, into at least 3, and then doing this detailed analysis with we call it a market segmentation matrix. Okay, now this leads to your tutorial 2, right? So I think for the market for the primary market research in the startup style, we typically do it within a few days. So I give you the entire week to do it. You can divide and conquer, right? You can do, appoint 2 people to do online survey, appoint 2 people to do interviews. You can do that, right? No problem, because you probably have 4 to 6 people in your team, so you can really divide the work. Most of the PMR are free, unlike the Gartner report that I download from the internet. I get to pay for it, and probably 20 to 30 survey respondents is good enough. I would say that start small, maybe 20 to 30 people. Just now we have about 34 responses, right, in our PMR, which is good enough, right, to start with, start with one segment and then repeat it to other segment, right? So this will give you a very quick and dirty insight into your customer problems and also finding the right solutions, right? So this is the purpose of doing PMR. So do not worry about the price of your product yet. We haven't come to that yet. If you're selling at $1 or 100 ringgit, we can do another survey later on. But just focus on customer needs and the customer segment, the segment that you want to sell your products to. Okay. Now, I will skip the slide because I think it's better to talk about your work posted on Google Classroom. Okay, let me just switch my screen to Google Classroom. Okay, hope you can see my Google Chrome. Go back to your classwork day. Okay, just look for week 2, yeah? So go to week 2. Your task this week is to conduct primary market research, okay? Your task this week is to conduct primary market research. Okay, go and read the book. It's very simple. It's only a few pages. You can really skim through. You don't have to read word by word, right? So it's not my intention to ask you to read word by word. Just skim through the workbook, red cover book. You can download from your Google Classroom under the textbook section. Firstly, brainstorm with your team. Fill up what my startup will do in the worksheet attached, right? So this is the worksheet. Download the worksheet. The first page is brainstorm what your startup will do, right? What is your idea? What's your technology, or what product you're trying to sell? And list down the potential customer that you want to take up, right? Or list down the potential customer group that you think you can sell your product to. Very simple, right? So just list down, in a very simple manner, right? Use this worksheet, and then you can download this in PDF and just fill it up using PDF, right? And then after that, after you actually do the first brainstorming part, you narrow down to your top 3 market for you to consider, right? If I was selling this, what is it called, microfiber mop, right? So my top 3 markets would be maybe housewife, maybe the working class, maybe what is it called? Maybe the elderly customer, right? So these are probably my top 3 markets for me to consider. Okay, so you narrow down the list, right? So very simple, just go back to the worksheet, same worksheet, fill it up, the second part, right? Part 1B, you just fill this up, right? So this is the end user list. And then you just do a checklist, right? Are these customers well-funded? Do they do shoppings? Like if you're selling to elderly people, right? They don't typically shop outside, you see. So how do you actually sell this to elderly people, right? So you have to think about this. This gives you a checklist. And there are actually an example in the book. You can refer to the examples in your textbook, okay? Now, the third thing is really to do the primary market research, right? So the third point is the most important point, which is to conduct a primary market research for all three market segments that you have identified. Again, go and conduct your market research, whether by conducting interviews, conducting the online surveys, observing what people do, or even putting yourself as a customer, right? If you want to, maybe sell something, and then you want to really try out the products yourself. What's wrong with existing products? Just be a customer yourself. Write your own insight statements, right? Find out what's wrong with existing products and what as a customer would do and what the customer will buy, in terms of the product that you are trying to sell, right? And then lastly, fill out the worksheets, okay? Fill out the last section. These are all the guidelines here, how to use the market segmentation matrix. These are all the definitions, and you fill out this, the market segmentation template. As simple as that, right? Just fill out in a very precise and concise manner, right? So, how frequent do they use the product, the urgency of use, and the example of end users who are using the products, and would they be willing to change to the new product? Like I asked you, right? Because just now I was trying to sell a Wi-Fi plan, right? Instead of selling mobile packages, I'm selling you a Wi-Fi plan, right? So would you be willing to pay a small fee just to subscribe to this Wi-Fi plan throughout the nation? If they say yes, they're willing to change, right? The willingness to try and the willingness to change is basically a validation that you can also sell your products, okay? And you can find all these things out from your primary market research, right? So with that, and that concludes the entire session today. We've been taking about 1.5 hours. I'm still doing fine, I hope. And if you have questions, you may stay back. And for this week, the other thing that I put up is for you to do a quiz. Yeah, we don't take attendance. Yeah, for information, attendance is automatically taken by Zoom. Zoom will take your attendance. I will still post your attendance online after the class. So you can find this weekly attendance on Google Classroom. And unfortunately, I do not have control over Zoom. If you log in with your name correctly, Zoom will capture your name correctly, right? So these were all captured by Zoom automatically. I will still post up your attendance online after this class. You can already find your week 1 attendance online, right? It's posted on the general section. Now, to be a bit more fair, I think it's good for you to go and take your own attendance as well, right? So from week 2 onwards, you have to attend this some sort of quiz, right? You can just open this up, and then while taking this quiz, you can also take your own attendance, right? And this attendance will be due at 2 p.m. later. If you go back to this quiz at 2 p.m. after 2 p.m., that means the link is no longer valid, right? And therefore, I would suggest you to do this right after this class, right? So at 12:30 afterwards, you can just log in, fill up just 2 questions. There are only 2 questions in the class that I need you to fill up, and while taking your attendance online, right? I think it's fairer, right? So I hope all of you who attended this class to participate. I've seen some of you who have turned in. There are 50 of you who have not yet who have yet to fill out your attendance online, right? So again, go and review all these videos. These videos are posted there for your reference. Okay, for your reference. It's important. It's always good to always refer back to all these videos online. How to do PMR and so on and so forth. Why market segmentation is important. These are all useful info for you. And remember, go back to your textbook, right? So it's always good to always look at your textbook, because your textbook has many information, right? And it's very easy to read, because this is the only reference book, and it's kind of like very thick, very it's not very thick, you see. So you can really skim through the textbook, during your bedtime, and it's available in PDF format. You can really like read it very fast, right? And it has a lot of case studies and stories that you can really refer to, and all the guidelines, references are all there in your textbook, right? So how do you do PMR is all in your textbook itself, and I'm just trying to summarize that using the slides. Okay, so with that, and thank you so much, and I don't want to hold you over your lunch, and we'll catch up again next Tuesday at 11 a.m. Okay, so for those of you who have questions, please stay back. You can ask me questions, and we'll address your questions one by one. Okay, thank you so much, and you may log off. Okay, so let's start the questions session. I will stop sharing my slide, and I will stop recording. Yeah, thank you so much.